mindset room.
Tiki, they call me the Oracle. I'm about to make this historical. These questions you ask me rhetorical. Like, who do I be? You know. I am the queen. I'm a supreme. You didn't know?
What do you mean?
Loki, they call me the Oracle. I'm about to make this historical. These questions you ask me rhetorical. Like, who do I be? Hey, y'all, peace and blessings. This is your girl, the Bougie Bruja. I just wanted to come real quickly and bring this story to you. I like to post on different things that come across my desk that I find interesting, and I think maybe sometimes you guys might find interesting as well. So I just wanted to bring this story to you all on this beautiful Tuesday. I hope everyone is having a good start to your week, and I hope you finish out well as well. So, nonetheless, let's go ahead and get into this. This is a story that I came across a couple days ago. I didn't get a chance to read the whole thing yet because it's a very long, 3-part, very detailed series. So, as usual, I went ahead and pre-recorded some audio for you guys. But in the pre-recording, you'll hear me reference videos, right? I found it was easier for me to just go ahead and put the videos kind of like at the front. So I'm going to play these videos for you. That way it'll give you some background as to what I'm actually talking about. Okay, let me go ahead and line this up. This story is about sex lies and injustice. Basically, it is about the corruption in Philadelphia's legal system. And I'm just going to go ahead and let me just share this real quickly. So that way you can get a little bit of background as to what is going on here, okay? Which probably still is going on to this day. So let me just go ahead and get into this. Let me share that. Make it bigger. I will also list my references in the description as well. So yeah, let's just go ahead and do this. All right, here we go.
I'm Emmanuel Clayton, and I'm affirming the truthfulness of my verified declaration dated May 4th, 2016 and June 3rd, 2016. I lied when I testified at the trials of William Franklin in November in 1980 and of Major Toby in May of 1985 for the murder of Jailhouse and attempted murder of John Pickens on October 22nd, 1976. I wasn't in the pool hall when Jailhouse was shot and killed and John Pickens shot and injured. I wasn't anywhere near Jailhouse and John Pickens when they were shot. I lied when I testified that Major Toby and William Franklin were in the pool hall and shot House and Pickens. Everything I testified to in Major Toby's trial and William Franklin's trial about witnessing the argument between Alfred Clark and Joseph House, threats made by Major Toby against John Pickens, and the shooting at the pool hall a few days later was false. A testimony was made up, being questioned by the homicide detective Larry Gerard, Ernest Gilbert, and Lieutenant Bill Shelton, and being prepped by ADA Ross, Christie, and King to testify against Major Toby and William Franklin. They worked over my testimony to make sure Major Toby and William Franklin were convicted of murder and attempted murder. I was in prison in 1980 on serious charges, and I had a lot of open cases. At least 3 of them were felonies with a lot of years of prison time. Detectives and prosecutors ADA Lynn Ross and Barbara Christie promised that if I said that Major Toby and William Franklin were the shooters in the 1976 murder of Joe Howes and attempted murder of John Pickens, I wouldn't get state time in my many pending criminal charges, and I wouldn't be charged in the murder of Samuel Goodman. That I had nothing to do with. I was threatened that I would get maximum prison time if I didn't cooperate to get Toby and Franklin. The detectives, with the knowledge and the direction of ADA Lynn Ross, Barbara Christie, and Roger King, promised me leniency, threatened me, and allowed me private time for sex with girlfriends and homicide interview rooms and hotel rooms. After Franklin's trial, I tried to recant, but
Just an FYI, this is my first time listening to these videos as well, so this is a first for us both. Thank you for joining me too.
Lieutenant Shelton threatened me, and I said I would be framed on another murder. None of my testimony was true. I falsely testified on October 22nd, 1976. I was standing by the door inside the pool hall during the meeting to prevent anyone from entering or leaving, and that both Franklin and Pickens were in the pool hall. I lied when I testified I saw Major Toby and William Franklin shoot Pickens in the house. Before Major Toby's trial, detectives instructed me to persuade Robert Pickens to become a witness against Major Toby. I was put in a police van and ride along with Pickens, but back and forth from homicide to the county holding prison cell on State Road to make it clear to Pickens that he really had no choice except to testify against Major Toby. It was also a lie known to ADA Ross, Christy King, and Major Toby and George Rose were buying fire bombings in 1979 and 1980. And then testified to that in August of 1985. It was also a total fabrication. Major Toby pulled a gun on me, threatened to shoot me in Philadelphia early in 1983. The police detectives and prosecutors I met with knew I didn't have any personal knowledge that Major Toby and William Franklin were involved or part of those shootings. They manufactured the lies I gave against Toby and Franklin and then coached me before the trials. I was coached by ADA Barbara Christie, and before Major Toby's trial, she was worried about my first statement that John Pickens had gone through a glass door. She coached me to testify on the second door leading out the pool hall, and that it had been a glass door. ADA Christie coached me how to answer the defense attorney's questions about whether I had plea deals or any agreements on leniency and sentencing for all the charges I faced back in 1980 when I first gave a statement about the shooting of Howells and Pickens, and since then. ADA Christie coached me on this like ADA Lynn Ross did before I testified against William Franklin. Back in 1980 when I testified at Franklin's trial, I lied when I said that the only plea agreement that was made my sentence on 3 cases were run concurrently. In fact, I got 1.5 years. In exchange for false testimony, many of my cases were not prosecuted. I got probation. I was sentenced to just 18 months for firebombing and was protected when I was arrested between the time of Franklin and Toby's trial. At Major Toby's trial, I testified that there was no plea deal and was a lie, and that was a lie, and ADA Christie knew that. She told me that the robbery charge and other charges would be non-surprise, and they were. And Major Toby's trial was forced by ADA Christie, Barbara Christie, to testify about the Black Mafia and that they were run by Black Muslims in Philadelphia. After Major Toby's trial, I was told I hadn't done good enough and I struggled to straddle defense. In 1989, I was convicted of felony charges and spent 13.5 years in prison for something I didn't do and framed by the ADA. In 2014, I was given help by the prosecution in getting all my prior judgments dismissed on cases going back over the year 23 years to testify falsely against Major Toby, William Franklin, because I was threatened by the police, the prosecutors for a murder, the prosecution for a crime I didn't commit. I was promised no state time for crimes I did commit if I lied. I wasn't willing to tell the truth about the lies I testified to at these trials, and that my false testimony was manufactured by ATA and police until now. I gave my verified declaration because I want to free my conscience. I need to be able to live with myself. It has taken me all these years to be willing and able to deal with my conscience and put aside my fears of retaliation by the police, prosecution for telling what really happened at those trials. I am now ready and willing to testify in the court for Major Toby and William Franklin and tell the truth, the whole truth, that I lied against them at the trials rehearsed by police and prosecutors. That is the end of the segment.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I want, and I get so much energy talking to you and knowing that you're the one gonna fight to get them out. They deserve to be out. They didn't do that crime. And I didn't do the crime that I committed. The same thing I did to them, the DA did to me and got somebody to lie. And I did 13 and a half years in prison, and I lost a lot of time away from my family. Toby and Franklin done did damn near triple the time that I did. And I just think they need to be free. And if right is right, right gonna prevail because the DA know that they lied and got me to lie. And I want to free my conscience. I can't live with myself knowing I did that.
Whew. Your conscience is a hell of a thing, isn't it? I'm sure it was pretty freeing to him. And I'm gonna go ahead and play these other two videos. The conscience is a hell of a thing. Yeah. This is, to me, as I'm listening to this and watching this with you guys, who's ever joining me, hey, welcome, 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 welcome to the gated community. Today I am just briefly talking about a story that I came across, and I wanted to share it with you guys to see, how deep the rabbit hole can go, and why it's best just not to even get caught up in this whole street shit. But here we are.
My name is Bobby Mickens. I'm 69 years old. I was born and raised in North Philly. Lived there all my life. I lived on 11th and Huntington, and the murder happened at Warnock and Huntington. And the statement they made about William running down 11th Street after it happened, that wasn't true, because I was outside in the front doing my thing, and I've never seen him come down to 11th Street running towards Cumberland Street, and that never happened. And that was after I heard shots. So I didn't see him chasing nobody. If it happened, it happened afterwards or before, but I never seen none of that happen at all. Period. I believe I was at Holmesburg Prison, and they told me I had to go down to the police administration building. So when they picked me up, Manny was in the van already. And we got to talking, and that's when he explained to me about Major Tillery. He was saying how, why you here and all this type of stuff. And I said, no, I don't know why I'm going down to the police station. And he said, well, Major put your name in some stuff like that. And he left it right there. He said Major was trying to involve me in the murder, that type of stuff. And I had no reason not to believe him. Manny knew a lot of stuff. So I went on the strength of a lot of stuff, things that he told me. And as years went by, I didn't realize that the corruption that was going on between the district attorneys and the homicide detectives over at the police administration building. They were having us come down there. We would make a statement, but I don't know how they did it. I don't know if they retyped it or whatever. But the main thing they were concerned about was me putting my initial at the end of each page that I did. And when I turned right around, I seen different statements that were perpetrated that I didn't make, But I followed up on what Manny had said to me in the police van. And that's how I got caught up in this web of lies with the police. It was drafted through stuff that Manny told me, and stuff that the Texas would feed me off of other people's statements. Now I don't know what statements they was giving me the information from because they had a folder with different statements in there. But they was drafting. I mean, giving me. Well, do you remember this part? And the agreement was, I just say yeah. Going there. You just agree to certain things that was said to you when we bring it up. You agree to it, that type of thing, and that's how it came about. It was only two detectives that was they called as my handler. It was John Semino and James Nesby. They brought me down like maybe 2 or 3 times when they wanted to correct certain things. Or one time they wanted me to be there when Barbara Christie was there. And she would go across the statement and say, oh, well, what this part here, blasey, blasey. And they would correct certain things. That was a normal thing at that time. That was a normal thing. The detective would let your girlfriend come down. Some guys would just visit them. Some guys would be intimate with them. That type of thing was going on. Real heavy at the time. I asked him out, girlfriend come down, then they let her come down there. And a see-through glass that they normally have where they could see, they had that cover up. They be having that covered up with some type of paper or whatever. But they let you do your thing, whatever you do. You go hug and kiss, intimacy, or you could just talk. But they was in on it. I don't know if they had speakers that listened to the conversation, but as far as them seeing you, it wasn't like that at all. So now I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. Because the way they had it set up was once I went out there to testify, I had to agree with what was on the statement. So that's what I did. After the trial, I had a couple more cases I testified against. I don't want to get into that, but I had testified in several cases, and then I was taken to court, and they gave me time served. They gave me 2.5 to 5. I already was there locked up then, to be followed by 5 years probation. So I was released. I realized a lot of things that was brought to my attention that I wasn't really aware of. And I start thinking back. I'm looking at these guys doing their life sentences because something that I did, and it wasn't right, and I guess I'm trying to amend things, within myself.
This is why I made the video talking about redemption and how it is. Whoops. This is why I did the video about redemption and why I don't give it, because I don't have the power to. I think that redemption is something that you give yourself, that you're able to make peace with yourself and with your higher power. Always keep that in mind. No one else can grant you redemption. You have to do that for yourself. And for the final video, before I get into just my quick audio in reference to this story, yeah, this is wild, because you got to think about all the families, all the people. Like, these are people. They have families who love them, friends, lives, years wasted in jail. I guess, like, when you at the time, you don't think about, you know 15 years, 20, 30, boom, you know what I mean? And it's just there. I swear, like, personally, it was like one day I was like 11, and then blink I was 21, blink I'm 40. You know what I mean? Like that. That's how quick time goes. That's just the reality of what it is. It goes by in a fleeting moment. Definitely. I think when we're younger, it just feels like you have all the time in the world ahead of you, almost like time is moving slow. But as you age, you realize how fast time actually goes. So Yeah, I did do that video. You can always go back and check that out. I think I put that under YouTube Messy Streets. I don't know. You got to go back and look. But yeah, it was like why I don't forgive, or something about why I don't do redemption or something like that. But this is why, because you can only grant that for yourself. So these people actually was brave enough to step forward and speak out in regards to what they experienced. And I'm just sharing this for y'all. I know sometimes you like to hear other things that's going on, you know, besides the same old, same old. So now we're gonna just get into the video real quickly of Mr. Harvey's daughter and her statement on the whole thing.
Sometimes I just think about the day my dad get out. I wake up every morning and that's my morning prayer. I go to sleep every night. That's my night prayer. That was his first year in prison. I was 4. Before COVID, I was going to see my dad every week. I go see my dad every Sunday. My father, Andre Harvey, was snatched away from the corruption of the police system. They snatched my father away by framing him and taking him away, which impacted my life, impacted my son's life, my mother's life, my grandmother's life, my whole family life. I heard so many stories about my dad. Like, your dad is being framed, your dad is really innocent. All I remember growing up is people telling me, your dad is really innocent. Your dad, really didn't kill that man. I'm now 41. I was 3 years old when my dad was incarcerated. It was a unique situation because he was incarcerated. He was behind the walls, but he never let that stop him from being a father. Like, report cards. Even my dad would try to help me with homework assignments from over the telephone.
This is a call from SCI, Phoenix State Correctional Institution. This call is subject to recording and monitoring.
Hello. At 41, I always say I should own a home. But I say all the time, I done bought a 3,500 square feet home over 3 times with the lawyers I paid with my father. Well, I think
Let me just say this. From the documents I was able to see, made available per the Inquirer, I really don't understand what's more to do here. You know what I mean? All the evidence, everything is out there in black and white. So I'm hoping, hopefully, these families will get justice, because what happened, I mean, oh gosh, it's terrible, terrible. So many lives affected. But let's go on.
thing happened. What I feel happened is it was a cold case to the cops. But the actual street people really know who did it. And I think the people that did it is probably no longer even here.
The hood always knows. Always.
And they had depended on somebody. What keeps me going every day that allows me to emotionally be there for my dad? The love I have for my dad, the love, the bond we have. Lock the door. Sure. You just think that people gonna see the truth. The truth gonna prevail. You know, the truth is all we got, and you know, it hasn't set them free yet.
It's a terrible, unfortunate whole entire situation, which I'm sure is not just prevalent here in Philadelphia, but also across all major cities and metro areas, especially when it comes to the majority of a black population. But this just gives you kind of like an intel of what goes on, what's happening behind the scenes. This, I mean, I've never heard of this, not even a rumor of anything like this. So the whole entire expose was just done so eloquently and just detailed down to the T. So yeah, if you do get a chance, click on those links. You could do all the research for yourself. Is if like true crime and all that other stuff is your thing. I just thought it was a very interesting story. You see things like this all the time on the Lifetime movies, you know, the thrillers and the corrupt. You see it, you know, in the media, but when it's, you know, brought out that it is actually happening with solid evidence and proof, tangible evidence, it's like, whoa, you know. So I just wanted to share that with you all on this beautiful Tuesday. Okay, so we'll get into just my short audio of it, and hey, you guys, don't forget to like. They're free. Comment. You don't have to share. I don't mind. You don't have to share, but please feel free to hit that like. Okay. They are free. The likes are free. Okay. All right. We're going to get into this, and then I'm going to bid you guys farewell for the day, you know, probably for the week. Pretty busy. Busy week. But I did want to pull this up for y'all because I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Anytime I come across any news stories that I'm like, whoa, I just want to bring it to you and share it with you, like I did with the gangstress who was shot up. Oh man, did you guys take a look at that? Could you stomach that? Oh man, that's crazy. You know, I got popped from YouTube with it. I had to fight them over there. Like, what? No nudity in this. What are you talking about? I just translated it. All right, let me go ahead and get into this, okay? You guys be beautiful inside and out, all right? Once I figure out how, wait, let me let me try this again. Hold on, because I don't want to have to redo this. Okay, I'm going to share the audio. Boom and boom. All right, I'm going to make this big so that way you can all see. Well, it's really nothing to see. I just made that a backdrop. But let's go ahead and listen into the audio that I pre-recorded, okay? All right, y'all. Grand Rise. Welcome to Tuesday. This is your girl, the Bougie Bruja. That part. Bougie! Good morning. Welcome. Good afternoon. So, I'm just going to go straight into it. I was reading a series on, it's called Sex Lies in Philadelphia, and it's scandalous, right? This is a 3-part series that the Inquirer is doing, or has done, I should say. And it came across my timeline. So I went ahead and read it. I mean, it is detailed to the T. It is 3 parts of it. All the files, all the pictures, all the databases. Everything has been laid out for anyone who wants to go ahead and, I mean, from like the homicide files, everything is here. If you want to go ahead and take a look at the entire, salacious details of what happened, what's going on. Okay, this is called Sex for Lies in the city of Philadelphia, and why jailhouse snitches really don't make good witnesses. Now, what I'll be actually touching on is the part 3 of this entire series. You'll see it in the description, okay? I gotta take you guys back. Let's go way back. It was 1984, and Franklin Lee was locked up at a Philadelphia jail awaiting the trial for serious crimes, including the R word he admits to and a murder he denies any part in. Lee made a desperate decision, one with consequences he said he is still trying to atone for today. Mm. It started, he said, when homicide detectives Ernest Gilbert and Larry Gerard sent a wagon to bring him down to the police administration building. We went into the interrogation room. They came in with 4 or 5 files, and they probably still have these files, okay? I mean, these are brown, big, goofy files to this day. Anyway, they came in with 4 or 5 files, and they said, if you will help us, we can help you. I said, what do you mean? They said, we are trying to clean up these homicides, aka cleaning the books. They asked him about a neighborhood man, Willie Stokes. Did Lee know anything about Stokes shooting up a dice game 4 years earlier and killing a man named Leslie Campbell? I said, I don't know nothing about that. And they said, that's not what we want. This. As Lee would later testify, the detective instructed him to fabricate a statement claiming Stokes bragged about the murder. In return, he said they offered a lenient sentence and an unusual way to make his jail stay more enjoyable. How enjoyable, you may ask? Well, according to Lee, his stay would be more enjoyable because he would get regular visits to the police administration building, also here known in Philadelphia as the Roundhouse, where Lee could have sex and interview rooms. The women could freely bring in drugs and money, he said. So here's the part when I'm all in, okay? I'm like, what? Sex, drugs, and scandal? Yes, I am here for it. So basically, Lee was like, all right, bet. So he took them up on their offer. And when his girlfriend soured, unseemingly set up, a detective boarded a sex worker, and he said, they gave me condoms. Yes, you guys, you heard that right. Once he and his girlfriend split up, they said, hey, we're going to keep this party going, okay? And they brought in sex workers to the Roundhouse. Scandalous. Scandalous. Oh my gosh. Lee is one of at least a dozen people who have claimed in affidavits, testimonies, or inquiry interviews that the same Philadelphia homicide detective who has since died facilitated these sexual encounters in the Roundhouse to induce cooperation, a scheme some lawyers have termed sex for lies. Thus, my story for today and for you all. Again, I like to always touch on random shit around the world, my city, whether it's paranormal, normal, or abnormal. Yeah, this is why we're here. Sex for lies. I just wanted to bring this story out because we see this in movies all the time. I'm sure you've heard about cities and corruptions and cover-ups and things of that nature. So I just figured I'd bring this one to you. It definitely sounds like a Lifetime movie. I am in no way laughing at the people who are still suffering from all these lies and false testimonies and basically lying on the stand just to quote unquote clean the books. Oh goodness. Could you imagine if this was still going on? They're going to have to be working overtime with these informants because the murder rate is through the damn roof. Okay. While the police and prosecutors and judges have found such claims incredible, new admissions from informants obtained by the Inquirer described a pattern of misconduct in homicide unit in that era. You don't say. I think Rizzo was in charge then, right? Okay. Stokes is one of at least 6 men still in prison due to testimony from those jailhouse informants, much to Lee's shame. At the moment, Philadelphia has counted 22 homicides, exonerations in over just 3 years, but none involving cases as old as these, all dating from the early 80s. They don't want to go back that far because they know what Police Commissioner Frank, because we're reading this for the same, basically at the same time. I'm reading this for the first time. I'm bringing it to you for the first time. So yeah, it was Rizzo. And all of them are done, said Major Tillery. One of the men who have raised the allegations. Lawyers argue it's part of a pattern of manipulating evidence, coercing victims, and coercing witnesses that continued for decades. They traced that through line from 1970s, when confessions were sometimes obtained using violent interrogation tactics, up to the 2000s, when dozens were convicted based on work by Detective Philip Nordo, who is now charged with raping R-word suspects and manipulating investigators. Oh gosh. One man who raised the sex for lies claims involved the same two detectives. He was released in 1990 after he attributed his own murder confession to sexual coercion. At a post-conviction hearing, 3 women testified they had sex with the man, Arthur Lester, at the Roundhouse. According to a superior court opinion, which also cited the visitor's logs. Again, I am leaving the links to all of this. You can see the logs. You can actually search the database for yourself. It is quite detailed, very much so. We find that the police officer offered sex constituted as provocation. Tongue-tied. Come on, coffee, stop working. Powerful enough to coerce Lester to cooperate, the court opinions, okay? The DA office did not contest the allegations in that case, but has admittedly rejected similar claims in the years since. A spokesperson said the office would not comment on the cases because they either had pending petitions or were not under review. A police department spokesperson had no information on the allegations, but noted the department has taken steps to ensure the integrity of investigations remain intact. Yeah, right. Detective Gerard was quoted at the time in the Daily News as laughing off Lester's allegation. That's a lie. He have to be doing it with the captain, okay? He's guaranteed to get AIDS and everything else you can catch, if that's what he did. Nothing but dirt and metal chairs in those rooms. Who believe that? Okay. The sex for lies allegation was raised again in 1997 hearing for an unrelated case in which 3 co-defendants sought to prove detectives' inappropriate treatment of jailhouse informants. The girlfriend of a known informant, Anthony Singleton, who had given statements about Stokes and others, testified about the tryst. He said he got the privilege for testifying. She told the court. The prosecutor asked if perhaps instead she had merely poured in dinner for Singleton. No, she testified. I was the dinner. Oh, scandalous. She was the dinner, honey. As for Lee, he expected only a 7-year prison sentence when he testified against Stokes at the preliminary hearing. This is also, I just want to break from this just a minute. This is also why it is really, and that's like it's the last option, is when you would actually bring in a jailhouse informant because of things like this, just like this. So again, like I was saying, Lee thought he was only going to get 7 years in prison, right? But afterwards, Lee said his mother shamed him. You don't even know that boy. He recalled her saying, "Why are you doing that?" Meaning, why are you lying on that person? At the trial, Lee recanted. The police made me make this statement, he testified. They said if I don't cooperate with them, they would talk to the judge, and he will hang me. The prosecutor, John D. Donato, responded by introducing Lee's cooperation agreement into evidence according to the transcript. You know, right now, we're going to go back before Judge Sabo and say, Judge, he reneged on his deal with us. He admitted to lying on the stand, and he should get the maximum. So he got himself caught up, y'all. Then, according to the transcript, D. Donato ripped the cooperation agreement up. 9 days after Lee recanted, he was charged with perjury. Yes, you guys, perjury. The criminal complaint reads, false statements. Defendant stated Willie Stokes told him he killed Leslie Campbell. Instead of a lenient sentence, Lee received a minimum of 35 years in prison. 35 years in prison. That included 3 to 7 years for perjury. He was paroled in 2019. That's crazy. Insane. So Singleton, who had implicated Stokes in his statement, also changed his mind and refused to testify. According to an undated written statement, again, the links is in the description if you want to see all of this for yourself. At Singleton's sentencing, the prosecutor emphasized that he had reneged on his offer to cooperate. The judge sentenced him to 40 to 80 years in prison. Singleton died in jail because of what these cops did, Lee recently said. At trial, Stokes felt a flood of relief after Lee recanted. The prosecution case now hung on 2 imperfect eyewitnesses, one who failed to identify Stokes and the other who placed Stokes at the scene holding a gun but not shooting. That was the whole trial, Stokes said by phone from prison. I thought they were going to let me go. Instead, he was convicted of first-degree murder. I never seen the streets since, he said. Okay. Now, this part is called From Stick to Carrot. Well, I guess we'll figure out why together. Michael Chitwood, a Philadelphia homicide detective in the era, said he recalled rumors of roundhouse trysts, but no proof. He acknowledged that sexual favors or not, jailhouse snitches are problematic. Oh, wow, I was just saying that. But he added, what you're seeing today is the informant of all sudden recants, okay? And that isn't necessarily true. Still, experts say such cases demand scrutiny. Jailhouse informants are a leading factor in wrongful convictions involved in 1 in 6 cases resulting in DNA exonerations, according to the Innocence Project analyst. I really respect that program too. Good job, you guys. Keep it up. Jailhouse informants are kind of the third rail of prosecution behavior, said R. Michael Cassidy, a Boston College law professor and expert on ethics. I think most savvy prosecutors will avoid them at all costs. I was just saying that. Okay. We're reading together here. They come with impaired credibility, given their ulterior motives. In addition, he said, the obligation to reveal all promises, rewards, and inducements from a reduced sentence down to increased phone time in prison places a burdensome discovery obligation on the prosecution. This is very bothersome to read this, y'all. It's crazy. But I'm not surprised. Not 1 second. As for the inducement of sex and drugs, he said, that would be what's called a shock the conscious due process violation. This would be an egregious behavior that would probably make the whole statement inadmissible, even if the behavior was disclosed. At the time, however, Philadelphia detectives were known to go great lengths to close cases in the mid-1970s. Philadelphia judges were tossing out 1 in 5 homicide confessions because of improper tactics, including brutal interrogation room beatings. I know nobody's surprised about that. An Inquirer expose shed light on the worst abuses leading to federal charges in a Department of Justice investigation. New systems went into effect. A homicide detective, then by the name of Leon, oh goodness, Lubajewski? Yeah, good luck with that one. There was audio taping and videotaping of confessions. Then we had the 6-hour rule that you can only have the defendant for 6 hours before an arraignment. For a few years, clearance rates plummeted from 91% in 1976 to just 60% in 1980. What that means is they had less people cooperating in confessions because they changed the whole dynamics of how it was done. So basically, they couldn't just allegedly beat the shit out of people until they just wrote down whatever it was that they wanted them to write down, okay? And then they rebounded. Michael Dynaston, Stokes' lawyer and a former prosecutor, said these 1980 cases demonstrate the abuses still continued. In Stokes' case, he described a nesting down of constitutional violations from Lee's concealed perjury charges to evidence the prosecutor allegedly struck black people from the jury pool. Ain't that some shit? I'm not surprised, but let me just give you guys just a heads up here. When you don't vote, really, you know what I mean? You're less likely to be called into a jury, which means whoever is coming up, I mean, they're less likely to have a jury of their peers, honestly. So just think about that. The ones who are voting these people in are the ones who are on the stand, okay? It is an unfortunate reality of the history of Philadelphia that allegations of inappropriate conduct by Philadelphia police officers and detectives has been routinely ignored, he said. If detectives shifted tactics from stick to carrot, several snitches said access to sex was a highly motivating carrot. The power of the P, y'all. They did that for me too, said Michael Griffin, who was jailed for robbery charges in 1984. He said he truthfully testified against the co-defendant, but access to sex was a strong inducement. The practice was an open secret, according to Craig Jackson, who was jailed in the Holmesburg prison. He said he witnessed detectives escorting Singleton, Lee, and others. They would pick guys up from county jail, take them down to the roundhouse to have sex in exchange for false testimony of people they wanted to get off the street. As the drug trade took a hold of North Philadelphia, unsolved murders piled up for cold case detectives. Could you imagine what the books is like right now? Good God. They believe that the slayings were, they believe some of the slayings were connected to the Black Mafia, making them extraordinarily difficult to crack, okay? Because I think I read a book on the Black Mafia, as well as had, family members who were, in that era and a part of, okay? From what I can remember, I don't think anyone ratted each other out. I don't believe so, but I read that book a very long time ago. And the relatives who actually did have associations with them has passed on. If you talk about the 70s, there were no informants about Black Mafia. Oh, wow. No one would cooperate, says Sean Patrick Griffin, a criminal justice professor at the Citadel and the author of several histories of the organization. People not only didn't trust the cops, but also were incredibly fearful of Philly's Black Mafia. Again, y'all, we are reading this together, honey. All right? And you know what? That probably was Mr. Griffin's books that I read then. That appeared to change with the use of jailhouse informants. As Gerard would testify years later, there was a whole group from the neighborhood up there who was telling each other about the murders. They were, I don't know, maybe 8, 10 unsolved murders that we cleared at that time. One man, Emmanuel Manny Clatt, was in prison with 8 or 9 pending cases. He said in 2016 affidavit, when he was given a choice, face a life sentence or get a lenient treatment and the chance to meet four of his girlfriends at the police headquarters or in a hotel room. Again, I'm telling y'all, check the links out in the description. You'll be able to see all of these documents, including the roundhouse visitors logs, okay? Klatt became a valued witness, describing a web of black mafia violence. His statement cracked the 1976 cold case murder of Joseph Hollis in a North Philadelphia pool room. A second man was shot in the attack, but he survived and quickly identified the killers as Ricky and Dave. It's not clear what became of that lead. Instead of 4 years later, Klatt identified his shooters as William Franklin, who police said owned the pool room, and Major Tillery, whom police labeled the East Coast Speed King, and placed atop the city's first ever most wanted list. Klatt also said that Tillery firebombed 2 houses. I think I did talk about this. Well, this particular part of it. Okay, let me stay focused. Both men have maintained their innocence. In a statement in a video made before his death in 2020, Klatt said it was all lies, all of it. Oh, he looks like he could be someone in my family. I'll make sure to put the pictures in there. Klatt alleged prosecutors coached his testimony in concert with detectives Jared Gilbert and here go that name again, Lubajuiski. Klatt said that when he tried to recant, Lieutenant Bill Shelton threatened to frame him for another murder. Shelton, Gerard, and Gilbert are all deceased. Attempts to interview Lubajuiski about the case was unsuccessful, I'm sure. So letters from the prosecutors offer a window into Klatt's favorite status. They repeatedly sought to lift parole detainers in bail, citing Klatt's importance to the prosecution of Tillery, Franklin, and others. None of these cases have been brought to trial without Mr. Klatt's statement, Assistant District Attorney Leonard Ross told a judge in 1981 sentencing hearing. The 2 homicide matters as well as the bombing, although we basically knew who was involved. Judge, we had no evidence to present to court until Mr. Klatt made his statement. Also, Ross declined an interview request with the Inquirer as well. Klatt waited decades to come forward, he said in his affidavit, because he feared retaliation by police or prosecutors, he served just 18 months plus probation for a series of violent crimes. In exchange for my false testimony, many of my cases were not prosecuted, he said. Listen, I can't tell you how many times I've said this. It's not always what you know, is who you know. Yeah. So he basically got, a pat on the hand for very violent crimes in exchange for being a rat, a liar. And, he did 18 months, okay? He also said the detectives enlisted him to recruit another jailhouse informant, Bobby Mickens. That name sounds familiar. I was put in a police van to ride along with Mickens, Klatt said, to make it clear to Mickens that he really had no choice except to testify against Major Tillery. In an interview, Mickens, 69 now, said that by the time of that van ride, detectives had already unsuccessfully tried to coerce his cooperation. It was Klatt who convinced them, telling him Tillery had snitched first. He said Klatt advised, don't let him set you up. If anything, you turn it back around on him, and that's what I did. 8 years after Hollis murders, Mickens accused Tillery. According to Mickens, whose sworn affidavit was filed in court. Again, y'all, go check out the description for these links so you can see them for yourself. Okay, so basically, after these sworn affidavits was filed in court, Detective John Camino and James McNesby, these Irish means, where the case's files into the room, fabricated statements for him to sign. I followed up what Manny said to me in the police van, Mickens said, and that's how I got caught up in this web of lies with the police. As an added incentive, he said, the detectives let him meet a girlfriend in an interview room with paper over the two-way mirror. They let you do your thing, whatever you do. You could hug and kiss, intimacy, or you could just talk. Like Klatt, Mickens alleged prosecutors were in on the fabrication. He said the affidavit, the assistant district attorney, Barbara Christie, scripted and rehearsed his testimony. She didn't promise a specific sentence. He said in the interview, she just said, I'll be all right. You'll be all right. You'll be home soon. Christie reached by phone, said she did not recall having worked on Tillery's prosecution, but in any case could not comment on office matters. Transcripts show she argued the case. No, come on. Hey, ma'am. How the hell you don't know if you represented someone or not, or argued someone's case? Come on, stop it. Okay, she argued the case for the Commonwealth. Kimono is deceased. Attempts to reach McNesby were not successful, I'm sure. And following this year, Assistant District Attorney Samuel Werdeman called Klatt's and Mickens' statement unbelievable claims by career criminals. They will always use your criminal past to get you and prove you to be or try to prove you to be not credible. So basically, they're saying, okay, yeah, right, this is so unbelievable. I mean, even if all these police and prosecutors had the requisite levels of malice to fabricate their entire case, the prosecution wrote, they would also need to have creative abilities of the very best novelists. Listen, this is like a movie. I mean, if you guys just, I don't know, take a couple hours. If you're, you have them available, you want something to read, definitely go and read through this. This is shocking material, and I'm very interested to see how this actually turns out going forward. So after Meckens testified, he was sentenced to 2.5 to 5 years for the R word and robbery, but released on parole. He said it wasn't until years later that he realized that meeting with Cladd was a setup. I started looking back, and these guys are doing life sentences for something I did that wasn't right. Franklin has served 41 years. Tillery has done 36. There was never no evidence, no fingerprints, no weapons, no ballistics, Franklin said. Tillery, 70, became a renowned jailhouse litigator and a lightning rod who served close to 20 years in solitary confinement. Ugh. In 1987, he drafted a lawsuit about prison conditions at the State Correctional Institute, Pittsburgh, that forced a $30 million renovation. Kudos to him. He obtained another settlement after alleging First Amendment retaliation for medical grievances. Most recently, he designed a seniors program being piloted at a state prison in Chester. His early prison career was also rife with allegations summarized by one federal judge as numerous challenges to procedures, attempted orchestrated assaults against staff and inmates, and organized gambling, in addition to a long history of gang-related criminal activities. Tillery denies much of that. Franklin, a 74-year-old grandfather, is fighting for a few years with his family, he said. His wife died in February after 4 decades of prison visits. Oh, wow. He's been a consistent part of our lives since we were born, said Gina Gibson, one of his 4 daughters. We want our dad home. Wow, so his wife actually held him down all that time. Wow. This part is their little chess game. Since Arthur Lester was released in 1990, no other case has been overturned based on sex for lies claim. Yet the allegations have repeatedly been raised in court. In 1997, 3 men convicted of a 1982 drive-by shooting of Fred Rainey in North Philadelphia, Andre Harvey, Russell Williams, and Howard Wright, presented the claim regarding the key witnesses against them, Charles Atwell. Atwell didn't accuse them until 9 months after the murder, when he was jailed on aggravated assault charges. So you see how this all works. You see the circle, right, y'all? You see how this is? They're literally doing this in exchange. This is crazy. They didn't have anything on anybody until someone else got into a whole situation, and it was basically, come on here, perjure yourself, and we're gonna give you a slap in the hand, and put potentially innocent people away. This is completely messed up. So again, Atwell, he didn't accuse any of them until 9 months later after the murders, when he was in jail on aggravated assault charges. Detectives have acknowledged that Atwell, while incarcerated, was able to repeatedly meet with his girlfriend at the police administration building, aka the Roundhouse. After he testified, the DA's office dropped the charges against him, but Atwell and the prosecutor denied any undisclosed benefits. Among those who disputed that were Archie Scott, a man who gave a statement to Harvey's investigator saying that he witnessed Rainey's murder, that Harvey, White, and Williams were not the killers, and that the detectives offered both him and Atwell sexual favors to manipulate their statements. At the 1997 hearing, a former girlfriend of Atwell's, Maxie, testified that she and Atwell were permitted intimate visits at the Roundhouse. Oh, goodness. That sounds like a C-word nightmare. Atwell's nephew, Douglas Atwell, backed up that claim, adding that Atwell had asked him to deliver 40 packets of PCP there. He testified he turned the drugs over to Detective Gerard, and afterwards inadvertently walked in on Atwell and Harris having sex. This is all at the Roundhouse, y'all. Okay? Gerard denied receiving drugs or ever leaving Atwell and Harris alone in the room. He would have been cuffed to a chair and the door would have been open, Gerard testified. 2 years after the 1997 hearing, Philadelphia Common Pleas Court Judge Janice Brinkley ruled that Atwell and Gerard was credible, while the other witnesses were not. Atwell did not respond to interview requests. Craig Jackson, the man who was locked up with Lee, Singleton, and Atwell, said Atwell is in a difficult position. He had the cops threatening to put cases on him if he didn't testify, he said. They just made people part of their chess game. I think I talked about this before, ladies and gentlemen, about what goes on kind of behind the scene. I think I spoke on this when I was talking about the violence in Philadelphia. To folks with position of power, I should say, your sons, your daughters, mothers, fathers, they're not really people, so to speak. They're just, pieces on the chess game, honestly. Douglas Atwell, a teenager then, said it took him decades to understand the context of the stranger visit. If I'd known then what I know now, I would have spoke up, said Atwell, who is now 54. Harvey, who is 58, is a grandfather now and an organizer with the anti-violence group, Real Street Talks. William, 63, has developed heart problems. White, 72, has stage 4 prostate cancer. I'm also going to put the videos in as well. I think I would be able to do that. Harvey's daughter, Sonia, 41, says she visited almost every Sunday since she was a child. After the hearing in 1997, she was convinced the revelations would set him free. You couldn't tell me my dad wasn't going to be coming home for my 12th grade graduation. When that didn't happen, I cried for 2 weeks straight. He shouldn't be in there. Meggins testified in 4 cases altogether. He said in an interview, Platt said in an affidavit he gave information in 7 cases. The extent of cooperation by Atwell and others and what benefits they received is not apparent from the records that are available to the public. At least 7 states have passed laws regulating jailhouse informants, creating a database tracking their use and the benefits of the informants received, or requiring cautionary jury instructions. State Senator Vincent Hughes, a Philadelphia Democrat, introduced legislation into Pennsylvania, but the bill has yet to be received in a hearing. This comes down to the reliability and the integrity of evidence that's being offered in the criminal court, said Rebecca Brown, policy director from the Innocence Project. It is impossible to evaluate the evidence without a full picture of the informant's history and and their perceived or real leniency. But overturning cases involving even discredited informants remains very difficult. This is said by Harvard Law professor Alexander Natapov. Okay, he's an author of a book called Snitching: Criminal Informants in the American Justice System. Often courts find even undisclosed benefits are insufficient to overturn the conviction. Natapov said, in her view, the law has not caught up with the growing understanding of the problem. The more we learn about the serial quality of jailhouse informants' unreliability, the greater the need for the law to adjust so we can revisit old convictions that we know had to be based on unreliable testimony. In Stokes' case, he found a new avenue into court after discovering paperwork linking Lee's perjury conviction to his preliminary hearing testimony, not his recantation. In June, the DA agreed to a hearing. So if this is actually granted, this will be his first time since 1989 having his case looked at again. At the hearing, Francis Dinkins, the sole surviving victim of 1980 shooting, testified that Stokes was innocent. Dinkins said he told police that, but he said detectives assaulted him anyway. Eventually, he testified, I did sign a statement under force. He said after he refused to testify against Stokes, detectives warned him to stay away from the trial. Since then, Stokes also received an affidavit from the only witness who placed him at the scene with a gun. That man, Darrell, said he remembered little except that the police hauled him out of bed for questioning around 3 a.m. He said he didn't see the shooting, but walked up as people were scattering, contradicting his trial testimony. He wasn't there. He walked up on it. He shouldn't be in there, he said of Stokes. Stokes 59 now. He spent his adult life incarcerated. He still prays to come home in time to spend some good years with his mother, Gloria, who turns 80 this month. We've been waiting 40 years, his sister Renee said. So we'll see what happens. If you guys want, I could go into the other 2 parts of this because it is so well detailed and put together. It is ridiculous. You hear me? I'm going to go ahead and play the videos for you of these people. Actually, those are the videos that I played at the beginning. It was just easier to put them, in the front. So, as a part of this, victims of this as well. And, yeah, you have a good day. All right? Again, this is your girl, the Bougie Bruja. All right, y'all. Let me go ahead and put these videos on. You have a good, beautiful day. Oh, and a good week as well. So there you have it, you guys and girls. Sex for lies. So basically, they were getting people to lie on the stand in exchange for lenient sentences. Sex down at the Roundhouse. Now, the Roundhouse is nasty. Okay. For my non-Philly folks, that's not a clean place whatsoever. So I couldn't even imagine. Okay. Yuck. Anyway, as per usual, I'm going to go ahead and end this with this.
Fuck this shit, I'm out. Fuck this shit, I'm out. No thanks. Don't mind me. I'ma just grab my stuff and leave. Excuse me, please. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Nope. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Alright then. I don't know what the fuck just happened, but I don't really care. I'ma get the fuck up out of here.